Alrighty then, greetings everybody, welcome back to another Honkai Star Rail video. And in today's video, we're actually going to be going over about Acheron a little bit. We're going to be talking about her kit a bit, you know, her main teams a bit, her relic. Yeah, it's a guide video, but it's actually a semi-guide video, if you may, right? And the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm going to be quickly going over everything Acheron does, or the important parts of Acheron as a whole. So what does this mean? This means that I'm not going to be going in depth with, you know, her talent, technique, ultimate skill, and basic attack, right? I'm just going to be going over very quickly, a quick refresher, and something for the newer players to have a pretty good idea of how to play Acheron, what she does, how she works, and why she is as broken as she is. Then I'm going to be talking about the value of her LC, her Eidolons, E1 and 2 only though. E3, 4, 5, and 6. Look, I don't got $2,000 to spare. I could only go so far, right? And so far is E2. So with all that being said, if you are new around here, please consider like and subscribe to get joining the Celery Army. And with all that being said, I'm repeating myself. Damn, it's been a long day for me, and I am very much so tired. Forgive me, right? Definitely do forgive me. This is my first guide video. I don't know if I mentioned that. All right, let's just get it started already, shall we? So then, what actually makes Acheron different from the rest of the cast? And that's actually how you play her. Acheron has a unique ult gauge, or known as slash dreams or crimson knock stacks. You need 9 of those stacks to use her ultimate. Other characters can actually help fill up her stacks as long as they apply a debuff. Basically, mostly Nihility characters. So then, why is Acheron's ultimate super good? It actually does a lot. It does AoE and it does all type res pen, right? On top of that, it weakness breaks anybody regardless of their element. So this also allows you to use Acheron in situations where she's not supposed to be used in, right? In MOCs or bosses that aren't lightning weakness, but they could be fire weakness, they could be quantum, or they could be ice. Those are, we'll get into that in the later half of the video, right? But because of how Acheron's ultimate works and the fact that the majority of her damage comes from her ultimate, she could just work regardless, right? On top of all of that, right, and one thing that I should talk about is the more stacks you have, the more damage your ultimate does. That's very important. If you have an ultimate and you only have like 8 stacks or 7 stacks, you could in theory hold on to the ultimate, or you could just use it, but be aware that you will be doing a little bit less damage. Another thing, Acheron can also keep 3 extra crimson knock stacks when she hits 9 stacks, so you can, you know, play a little smart about it, be a little strategic if you may, right? Now then, Acheron's main issue besides her LC is her talent called the Abyss. When there's a single Nihility character on Acheron's team, Acheron's damage increases to 115%. If there are 2 enemies on the team, it goes to 115 to 160% of her original respective damage if there are 2 Nihility characters other than Acheron on the team. And now you could already get an idea or the gist of why this kind of nerfs her to a degree. But at the same time, it doesn't, because Nihility is a wild cards of all traits, right? It's insane. It's insane. But that's basically her kit, or the TLDR of her kit. That's the important parts of her kit, to be more exact. Now then, her playstyle. Acheron's playstyle is actually very easy. I kind of went over it a little bit. You have Nihility character number 1, Nihility character number 2. You want those Nihility characters to be super fast with these relic sets, and you're gonna hear a dog in the background. Please do forgive them, right? But you just slap all of these on. You know, you want really fast people. Now then, why the Vongwag set? Basically, it increases your wearer speed by 40% if they reach 120 speed, and it automatically advances them to basically the first person to attack every single time. And that's really good because they attack, apply debuff, more stacks for Acheron. And now then, the 4-piece ego set. If you're wondering why I said this, is because once you use your ultimate, the four-piece set procs, and it advances your action or your character by 25%. It took me a bit, I'm a little slow. Just a reminder, Acheron's damage comes from an ultimate, not skill or basic, so you really want your characters to be fast, and you really want your characters to ult as much as they can. It's very crucial for Acheron as a whole. So now that I've gone over her kit, quote unquote, and her playstyle in a very babyish way, let's go over her LC options, because this is the main issue with Acheron, if you may, right? And this is the part that got a lot of people scratching their heads if they should pull or not, right? It's her biggest con. You kind of need Acheron's LC. If you don't know what Acheron's LC does, basically it gives you a good amount of crit rate, 36% to be exact, and it would help you when you're building your Acheron, right? On top of all of that, it's also really good because it allows you to get one extra stack of Crimson Knock or Slash Streams, whatever you want to call it, and that's basically it. There's a couple of other smaller minute details, but ultimately, if you're going to be asking anybody, hey, why is her LC super good, they'll pretty much always say the crit damage that it brings, and most importantly, it allows you to get one extra stack when you're using your Acheron. Only in her turn she'll be able to get one more stack, right? Besides that, there isn't really much Nihility DPS LCs out there at all. Maybe you could use the Silver Wolf main LC, depending, right? Or you could kind of use this new 4-star LC. I don't actually know the name of it at the top of my head. I don't even think I have it, but it's this one as shown on screen, and it does help you with your crit damage and crit rate. Super good. But if you don't have that S5 or at all, then Old Reliable Goodnight Sleep Ball. And I'm actually going to show you a clip on screen right now of me using Goodnight Sleep Ball, and you can see that she still does a pretty decent amount of damage, right? Oh my god, I am stuttering a little bit. Now then, let's get into the relics, right? Acheron relic options hasn't really changed since her release. What does that mean? You're basically just going to be using a 4-piece Pioneer set. That set was literally made for Acheron, right? There's no other alternative as of right now, right? But there are something that you could use depending if you don't really have a 4-piece Pioneer set, or if you are new around here to the game, right? The Scholar Lawson Erudition set, it's pretty good. The 2-piece effect, extra crit rate, who doesn't love a little bit of extra crit rate? But the 4-piece set, it's pretty cool for Acheron, but it doesn't buffer all too much. If anything, it kind of gives you the same or a little bit less of a damage increase than the 4-piece Pioneer set. It just depends how well they're built and how well you use both of those sets. But ultimately, the 4-piece Pioneer set is it's however you want to build your Acheron. Whatever makes your life easier or whatever you feel most comfortable with, you do. Now then, for her planar sets, it's basically the same thing as her release. Izumo set was pretty much made for her, or you could just use a good old classic inner Soto set. Now that I do want to go over these two a little bit, you could use the Izumo set, but if you have a really hyper invested Acheron build like my own, you could actually go with the South Soto set for the extra 15% ultimate damage, right? If you're very close to that 4k attack mark, you really don't need the Izumo set like at all. They both help your builds overall, right? Now then, let's talk about the relic stats, right? And they honestly haven't really changed much since her release. Nothing's really changed, obviously, but you'd mostly want double crit rate stats and a little bit of attack and speed sprinkled on there. Depending on your crit ratio, you could go for a crit damage body or a crit rate body piece, right? It's whatever. And obviously for the planar set, you'd want attack rope and attack sphere, right? Excuse me, I was so sorry. Now then, for your Acheron's main stat, you'd basically want 4k attack, or the lowest could be 3.5k attack speed. Honestly, I'm gonna get into that a little bit later in the video, but for the most part, 110, 120 speed is perfectly fine, and you will want to have a decent crit base crit ratio without including her LC, 170 to 180 crit damage with 60 to 70 crit rate. Ultimately, if you are using something that increases her crit rate, then you can slack off a bit on the crit ratio. Alrighty then, Acheron's team options haven't really changed, and this is one thing that I'd like to say, but she has a lot of teams, but at the same time, she doesn't have a lot of teams that she can use. Her free-to-play team is literally Acheron, Gwenaifen, Pella, and Gallagher. That's really it. But as you see on screen, this team can still do a lot of damage, right? But here's where the fun part comes into play. I'll be showing you on screen all the characters that you could use with this Acheron, right? And in my opinion, her most premium team, E0 by the way, is Kenchaku from JJK, Pella depending, Gwenaifen depending, or Silverwolf depending on the MOC, and of course Gambler Guy, aka Gambler Guy, right? That's basically her most premium team if you're E0 S1, but this is when we're going to talk about her E1 and E2, the juicy part of the video. This is for the more serious players, is what you could say, such as myself. So that's what we're going to be going over right now. Now that I actually really did want to talk about her E2 because it's really interesting in my opinion. Her E1 basically just gives you extra crit rate, which helps you in your build, and that also allows you to go to 50 crit rate even and focus on crit damage as a stat more. But her E2 is really good. That Abyss passive, throw it out the window. You can use one Nihility character and still gain the 160% increase of damage. Very bueno. Muy bueno. Okay, but joking aside and pronunciation aside, her E2 is really good, and it allows you to actually slap on a Harmony character and use Acheron as a normal hyper carry character, right? But obviously there's going to be some buts, because in my opinion, with how the game is or the current state of the game, you could either use Acheron with Bronya, Sparkle, or Robin. I wouldn't recommend Ron May unless you're doing a hyper carry team with Ron May, Sparkle, Ron May, Robin, Ron May, Bronya, either or. But for the most part, Acheron, her E2 premium team is her, Kenjaku, Robin in my opinion, or Sparkle, and obviously the Gambler Guy, right? But that's besides the point. I want to talk about how E2 also affects your builds, because with E2 you could actually swap to speed boots, and that's very dependent if you use a character like Robin. And now, why am I saying this? Acheron's whole kit basically revolves around your character being as fast as possible. If you remove one of those characters that are supposed to make you as fast as possible and you replace them with a Robin, then you're going to want your Acheron to be as fast as she possibly could without losing an insane amount of crit value. That's the issue. But taking that into consideration, I still do think her having low speed should be fine if you are using a Sparkle or Bronya. Obviously they need to have a bit more speed and an ego set or something along the lines. But with all that being said, do I think her E2 is really worth it or not? I really do. I really do. Acheron is an insane character. Her E2 makes her just E2, it's about to make me cry. That's how good it is. Jokes aside though, Acheron's E2 really does push her into the meta spot more than what she already is. In my opinion, damage per screenshot and just overall, Acheron's still the best character in the game. But obviously, with a lot more supports for other teams being implemented in the game, she has slowly seen a little decline. And with the format of MLC and how it caters towards specific characters, we could definitely see a decrease in Acheron mains as a whole and her usage rate. So with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. and let me know how I did. There's gonna be a lot of cuts. I've been stuttering a lot, butchering a lot of words, and it's very nerve-wracking. It feels new, and I'm scared to edit the video. But with all that being said, if you are new around here, please consider like and subscribing and joining the Celery Army. And see ya. Thank you for the views.